Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Welcome back to the Rise of the Cabal series. Again, just want to say again, uh, thank you so much for again all the absolutely incredible messages, all the positivity. Can't say again thanks enough for everything. It's simply just gratitude. Um, we're just learning together, sharing together. Um, and again, like I said, we're we're learning the playbook, we're learning the mirror, and then through your own natural discernment, your own natural intuition, you and you only you decide what to do with that information. So let's get right into it, right? So I wanted to discuss, um, but I just want to say again, thank you. I wanted to discuss. Oh, I can never say this name. Men Jiz to Haile Mariam. Now, uh, this was again the chairman of the Derg, again, DERG, of the head of the state of Ethiopia. Now, when I was learning about this individual, I was like, wow. And now understand too, remember, the Ethiopian, uh, we're talking about countries, we're talking about this imaginary line that they call these things called countries, right? It used to be a part of this magnificent, just absolutely incredible Ethiopian civilization, or again, this kingdom, right? And it used to be part of, again, the Atlantean civilization. But when we talk about Ethiopia, it was one of the most abundant uh, places ever. But remember, as the cabal got more and more power, more and more control, more and more infiltration over invasion, um, they absolutely just destroyed is not even an accurate uh, term. I mean, they did everything uh, evil to the Ethiopian civilization. And when we learn about the amount of children have been trafficked, excuse me, from again the African lands, including of course again the Ethiopian civilization, which used to be a part of the Atlantean civilization or the beautiful Ethiopian kingdom. Um, People are just going to be absolutely just shocked, especially the amount of children um, that have been butchered, murdered, used again as again either uh, food for sexual pleasure or sacrifices, and that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on, and we need to be very clear again um, when we start to not only do the research, but again as we start to expose different people, especially how heinous these crimes are. But like I said, never believe a word I say. Do the research yourself, and once you see it with your own eyes, you can never unsee it. Now, let's let's go back. Like I said, we always want to go backward until we go forward. I just wanted to explain again how beautiful again this kingdom, this civilization of Ethiopia was. Now, remember in the King David episode that I did, uh, I totally destroyed King David. Remember, uh, they plagiarized that story again from again the King Solomon in Ethiopia, or the Ethiopian kingdom, or the Ethiopian civilization, and his beautiful queen, Queen Sheba. Remember, there was no King Solomon, um, and there's no there's no country called Judah ever in that area, and there's no country or land called the State of Israel until, of course, again, they occupied those lands after they stole it uh, in 1914 in World War One with Lord Balfour and Lord Rothschild. and they didn't occupy those lands until 1947. They stole those lands from the Palestinians, but they also stole the identity from the Ethiopians, who are the true Israelites. But the thing is, they stole again that Solomon bloodline. Remember, they can't manifest anything new, so that's why they steal identities, they steal names. Well, they did exactly that with the Ethiopians, and they stole again the identity or the bloodline of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. And they said, oh, it was this King Solomon. No, that's not true. Remember, it was in Ethiopia. And it was King Solomon of the beautiful dark melatonin in his skin. I mean, very dark. And Queen Sheba with beautiful dark melatonin in their skin, very dark. That had, again, their son, who again was the Aksumite king. His name was Dil Naat. So again, one of the reasons why they call you anti-Semite is because it's out of disrespect for, again, the Aksumite Ethiopian king, Dil Naat. And then they disrespect, again, the bloodline of King Solomon and plagiarize and steal the King Solomon bloodline. And remember, even King David said he ruled from, again, around 1024 BC. No, that can't be true, because remember, Marduk in the Sumerian tablets, or the Sumerian pantheon of the gods, was very upset, extremely angry, mad, that his processional reign was interrupted. And it says very clearly in the tablets, in the Sumerian pantheon of the god, in those tablets, that reign was interrupted at 1000 BC, and also says that it was interrupted by a great flood or a great deluge. So the idea that, again, this King David even existed is absolutely absurd, because, again, it would be underwater. So he didn't rule underwater. Remember, it's a lie. It's deception. It's absolutely ridiculous. And remember, they stole that line, bloodline from, again, King Solomon of Ethiopian kingdom, and again, his beautiful queen, his wife, Queen Sheba. And then they disrespect that bloodline even more with, again, the Aksumite king, Dil Naat. That's exactly where they get that from. And even they do the same thing, excuse me, when one of the founders of Ethiopia, again, Yekuna Amlak, they do the same thing, and they plagiarize or steal the identity of Yekuna Amlak, and that's where they came up with the name with the Amalekites. They can't help themselves. Remember, they can't manifest anything new, so they steal the identities. They steal the names of who they want to do as far as, gain control, and as far as infiltration or invasion. They can't manifest anything new, so they have to steal the names. And that's exactly what happened. And as well as they said, again, that Yeshua, even though we know he's Atlantean, he's from the Atlantean kingdom, he's from the Atlantean civilization, just like Thoth was the Atlantean. Thoth was from, again, the Atlantean civilization in the Emerald Tablets. And they told you that Yeshua spoke Amharic, sorry. That's not true. That's just not true. No, remember, they stole that again from the Ethiopians. Remember, Yeshua was told again and described what he looked like. Again, they told you his skin was as dark as brass, his hair was wool. Remember, he's a part of the Ethiopian kingdom. He's part of the Ethiopian civilization. His family were the Essenes. He walked side by side with the Cathars. Remember, it's just another perversion of the story. It's another lie. It's another deception. He was of dark skin. And he spoke his language in Ethiopia. The language there was called Amharic, Amharic, not Aramaic. There, I said it right. Aramaic is the language that they said that that Yeshua spoke. It's not true. They stole it again from Ethiopia. Their language was Amharic, again, Alpha Mike Hotel, Alpha Romeo India Charlie, AMHARIC. It's just another perversion of what they try to do as far as like, deceive you and harvest that negative energy from the deception, as well as disrespect the Ethiopian bloodline and disrespect the Ethiopian Gnostic teachings. And again, they corrupted it and plagiarized it, and they stole again the Gnostic teaching, which was called the Ways, and they corrupted it and they changed it to what you are now referred to as Christianity. It's just a plagiarization, and they corrupted it. Remember, it has a beautiful message in there. There's a lot of great things in the biblical text, but again, they hook you with the good things, and then they put a lot of deceit, a lot of lies, a lot of evil, negative frequencies in there, and harvest those negative frequencies off the deception. Exactly what they do. And also in Ethiopia, they had again the Ethiopian Tria, and again that was composed of this Ethiopian Federation of Eritrea, and they had 11 Coptic churches, and they had these beautiful temples, and these churches and some of these temples were absolutely incredible. They were made from the hardest known substance known to man, called basalt, and they even tried to explode some of these temples and some of these churches with explosives, and they couldn't even dent it. They couldn't even dent it. That's how much beautiful technology that they have in these 11 Ethiopian Coptic churches and these temples. They couldn't even dent it. They couldn't even dent it with explosives. And again, Strack, I've been to, again, the bomb and terrorism school in Socorro, New Mexico, and graduated from that course. So I know all about explosives. So we're talking about a high energy transfer when we talk about explosives. That's why explosives, they can pulverize concrete. They can pulverize steel. It's different energy transfer. Remember, there's a difference between explosives and fire. Fire needs, again, an energy source. Remember, it doesn't burn that hot, by the way. Explosives are so totally different. And that's what took down Tower 1, excuse me, Tower 2, and Tower 7 in the World Trade Center in the 9/11. But we're going to find that out. And again, a lot of people already know this already. But again, maybe you don't. But if you don't, you're going to find that out. That the state of Israel and the Mossad, using, again, a security firm that they infiltrated, were able to put nanothermite explosives in the elevator shafts and also in the areas where it takes down the structural integrity of that building. Because it was a steel frame building. And no steel frame building in the history of has ever been taken down by fire. Remember that building was reinforced by steel even on the outside. It could withstand multiple hits from a commercialized plane. It's just not true. But we'll get into that another time when we get to 911. But this is how much incredible technology that, again, the Ethiopian Federation, the Ethiopian, which again was called the Federation of Eritrea. This is how much incredible technology that, again, the 11 Coptic churches, as well as the beautiful temples in Ethiopia, as well as, the civilization itself, just amazing technology. And understand, again, when a child was born, of course, it had a mama and a daddy. But the thing is that the whole village, the community, everyone within that area of that child, they raised that child. And that's how beautiful spirituality, as far as the Gnostic teachings, that's how beautiful they were. They all took care of that child. They made sure that child had no harm come to it. Absolutely incredible people. Remember, they've been plagiarized. Their lands have been stolen. Their natural resources have been stolen. Their technologies have been stolen. Their children have been stolen and sacrificed and eaten. How sick is that? As well as used for different products. How sick. Absolutely sick. But again, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it more and more, and we're going to do exactly what we need to do, exposing these individuals that are responsible for it. And we're not going to hold back. And again, some of the information is absolutely disturbing. But again, we're going to not hold the information. We're going to, again, disseminate the information, and through your own natural discernment, your own natural intuition, you're going to decide what to do with the information. But let's get into this individual here called, again, Mengistu Haile Mariam. Now, again, say he was in office from 3 February 1977 to 10 September 1987. He was preceded by Tafari Benti, and he was succeeded by that said the position was actually abolished. He was the president of Ethiopia. He was in office from 10 September 1987 to 21 May 1991. Again, in that president of Ethiopia, it said that it was preceded by, it said the position was established then and succeeded by Tesfaye Geber Giden. And he said also again, General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Ethiopia, and was in office from 12 September 1984 to 21 May 1991. And then again, it says again, preceded by, the position was established, and it says succeeded by, the position was abolished. Interesting. Now, it says that he was born 21 May 1937, and then at a place called Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. His political party was the Workers' Party of Ethiopia. And he had 3 children, Tigest, Andernet, Hun, and then his spouse was again named Wabanchi Bishop. Interesting. Now, let's talk about him a little bit. He was an Ethiopian politician who was the most prominent officer of the Derg, again, D-E-R-G. It was, again, the communist military junta that governed Ethiopia from 1974 to 1987, and the president of the People's Democratic Republic of Ethiopia from 1987 to 1991. They said, again, Mengistu has ethnic Konso, Konso, ancestry from his mother's side and Amhara ancestry of his father. He was effectively a dictator, and he oversaw the Ethiopian Red Terror. Interesting. And I want to look this up. And you know, when we look at certain things, and we look at again how evil he is, we're going to get into this really quickly, but let's just talk about it. So again, it said the Ethiopian Red Terror, or the Kei Shibir, which is said in Amharic, again, that's the language in Ethiopia, was a violent political campaign in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Remember, I told you again about the Ethiopian Federation of Eritrea. That most visibly took place after the communist Mengistu Haile Mariam achieved control of the Derg in a military junta on 3 February 1977. I said in December 2006, Mengistu was convicted in absentia for his role in the Red Terror while the leader of Ethiopia. It is estimated that between 30,000 to 500,000 people were killed over the course of the Red Terror. I'll give you a little more background on it. It said, following the disposition of the Emperor Haile Selassie on 12 September 1774, the Derg was faced with a number of civilian groups competing for control of Ethiopia. Most notably, the Communist Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Party, or the EPRP. In September 1976, the EPRP militants were arrested and executed at the same time as the EPRP carried out an assassination campaign against ideologues and supporters of the Derg. Although an unsuccessful attempt to kill Mengistu on 23 September was attributed to the EPRP, the first prominent victim of the EPRP terror was Dr. Berk Merd, a member of the political bureau in all Ethiopian socialist movement called MINSA, Mike Echo India Sierra Oscar November, MEISON, another Marxist-Leninist party. However, the Derg was split by a rivalry between Mengistu and a faction allied against him, which limited his control. This rivalry was resolved at the meeting of the Standing Committee of the Derg on 3 February 1977, at which 58 top Derg officers were killed in an hour-long shootout. 7 of the officers were opponents of Mengistu, including Chairman and Lieutenant General Tafari Benti, who again, that's who took over. Captain Alma Hu Haile, Captain Moges Wold Mikeli, and Lieutenant Colonel Asrat Desta, the latter being a avowed Marxist, Leninist, and again said, "We are doing what Lenin did. You cannot build socialism without red terror." End quote. Although 2 rivals of Mengistu were still alive, Colonel Burhanu Behi and Lieutenant Colonel Afnanfu Abati and Colonel Burhanu had sided with Mengistu, and Lieutenant Colonel Atanafu quickly sided with the victor of the bloodbath, leaving Mengistu as an undisputed head of the Derg and ruler of Ethiopia. A few days later, Mengistu turned his attention to his rivals outside the Derg, foremost being the EPRP. And it talks about the attacks on the EPRP. It said that Mengistu officially began a campaign with a speech in a revolutionary square, formerly and currently called again the Meskel Square, in the heart of the Addis Ababa, which included the words "Death to the counter-revolutionaries" and "Death to the EPRP." When he delivered these words, he produced 3 bottles of what appeared to be blood and smashed them to the ground to show what the revolution would do to its enemies. The campaign involved organized groups of civilians, or they were called Kabalis, which within months' time began to receive arms from the Derg. It said that these squads did not all side with the Derg or heed its call to track down the reactionaries or anarchists. Rather, many followed their own whim and law, in accordance with the political faction that controlled each Kabili or factory. Not only had numerous defense squads had been infiltrated by the EPRP, but also those controlled by the political bureau were often bent on furthering the interests of the Misan rather than the Derg. Interesting. Now it says, at the height of the Red Terror in Addis Ababa on 22 March, when the Derg felt that they had armed enough civilian groups to permit a house-by-house search for the EPRP. It said members, arms, and paraphernalia. However, the search was anything but systematic, and each squad of law unto itself. Some looked only for arms, but others confiscated food supplies, building materials, and gasoline. And some considered cameras espionage equipment, and others regarded typewriters as highly dangerous. Interesting. It said, despite many being taken from their homes in the middle of the night, some never to return home, few of the top leaders of the EPRP were amongst the dead. It said the number of distinctively ugly incidents followed. And it said one was at the Burhanina Salam printing press, which 3 days later, a dozen workers were arrested for being the EPRP members, then afterwards released for lack of evidence. On the morning of 26 March, 9 of them were found murdered, including a woman in an advanced stage of pregnancy, which shocked the city. The deaths were followed to be the responsibility of a certain Gurma Kabid, who was later found to be the political bureau's chief executioner. He had already murdered 24 persons and had a list of over 200 others he was supposed to liquidate. Embarrassed, the Derg had him and 5 associates executed as counter-revolutionaries on 2 April. Despite this brutality, the EPRP continued to strike back best as they could, as one contemporary reported to the members. In and around the capital, the main opposition group of Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Party, again called the EPRP, was given good reason to be nervous. It assassinated more than 20 government officials and raided the Derg headquarters, and even wounded Mengistu in an ambush. One rebel sympathizer accosted correspondent Griggs on a busy downtown street and boasted, "We have 700 marksmen, and some of them are Mengistu's own soldiers. It will take time, but we will clean out the pseudo-Marxist military leaders eventually." Again, events like this led to the tensions between the Derg junta and presumably Mengistu and the civilian political bureau. Concern over the threat of the EPRP kept this tension from being a definite break until the eve of May Day, when the political bureau, on pretext and anti-government protest, was in the offering. They ordered the Keblis to arrest any young person suspected of being the EPRP member. Hundreds were arrested, taken to 3 different sites on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, and executed in mass. Scores of others were gunned down in the streets by the Derg, and jeeps mounted with machine guns constantly patrolled the streets of Addis Ababa, and the death toll may have been as high as 1,000. Afterwards, the Derg disavowed this advantage and put the blame on the slaughter of the political bureau in a proclamation on 14 July. It says the bureau's leader, Haile, and the group of his followers attempted to flee the capital the following August, but were caught. At the same time, the Red Terror made the Misan its next target. The leaders of the organization hastily tried to go underground, but most of them were either captured or killed in August of 1977. As again, they tried to retreat into the countryside in several detachments. Thousands of men were rounded up then, executed the following 2 years. The Amnesty International estimates that the death could be higher than 500,000. Groups of people were herded into churches and that were burned down. So again, they grouped these people and they herded them into churches, and then they burned these churches down with, again, the women as well. But before they burned them down, the women were subject as to be systematically raped by those soldiers. It says the Save Children Fund reported that victims of the Red Terror included not only adults, but 1,000 or more children, mostly aged between 11 and 13, whose corpses were left in the streets of Addis Ababa. It said, finally, the aftermath. Mengistu was found guilty of genocide in absentia and was sentenced to life in prison in January 2007. After his conviction, Zimbabwe, where he received sanctuary due to a friendship with Robert Mugabe, said he would not extradite him. On 26 May 2008, the Ethiopian Supreme Court sentenced Mengistu in absentia to death. 18 associates of Mengistu, 2 of whom lived in the Italian embassy in Addis Ababa, and 16 in the Ethiopian prison, were also under the death sentence. Another individual who was found guilty in absentia in May 2002 was named Kel Bessa Negru, who returned from his exile in the United States several years later to serve a life sentence. Absolutely interesting. Now, that was the Red Terror, and it was absolutely gruesome. So remember, you're talking about, again, in the AI narrative, they're saying over 500,000. But again, through other, research and stuff, it was in the millions. And the thing is that, or it could possibly have been in the millions. They said they don't have any idea how many people they killed. They just went on a 2-year killing spree in Ethiopia. Remember, but what were they doing? And this is the thing we have to understand. Remember, they were going on a killing spree, but they were abducting the children as well too, and they were sacrificing the children, and they were stealing the children in this 2-year killing spree. So remember, when you have upheaval, when you have distress, as far as infiltration or invasion, it's more easy for you to infiltrate, of course, certain groups. And when you have a national disaster or national emergency or war within your country, or an overthrow of the government, and again by these junta, Marxist, individuals, you can get the children a lot easier, especially if it's war, because there's no accountability as far as how many children were actually taken, murdered, sacrificed, or even worse. And then I've talked about, again, a systematic rape campaign. So even before they even burned the people in the churches, and they did all these horrific things and all this torture to the people, they systematically raped all the women they could get their hands on. Absolutely, can you imagine the negative lower frequencies that was going on in Ethiopia? Now remember, why is this happening? Remember, they're slapping Ethiopia in the face. Remember, they stole the identity of Ethiopia. They stole the lands of Ethiopia. They stole the resources of Ethiopia, the natural resources. They stole, the children of Ethiopia. And they're, these lower negative frequencies in Ethiopia, because they can't never have Ethiopia learn the truth of who they truly are. And again, when you go talk again, I saw different videos and different testimonies of the old Ethiopian ancestors. Now, not only is everything alive, but remember, they've stolen the identities. They've kept, again, the Ethiopians in a lower frequency to keep them not only in slavery in that country and to keep that country in a lower frequency. And again, look at Ethiopia and then look at the famine that also occurred. They can go in there anytime they want, and these charitable IGOs or international government organizations, and then get as much children as they want. And again, they can also do the same thing with these organizations, these associations, these corporations, and steal all the natural resources. So they're stealing the natural resources as they're sacrificing the children and abducting the children, do all sorts of horrific things, and especially when we talk about, again, child sex trafficking, human trafficking, adrenochrome production, again, organ harvesting, pedophilia, and absolutely sick. All this, again, this satanic Babylonian Talmudic blood sacrifice, these blood rituals, they're absolutely evil. And then when you start talking about, again, when the apartheid, enters South Africa, they're not just talking about South Africa, they're talking about the lands of Ethiopia, that they're able to establish their base, and then they can, use their financial means to, hire rebels or anyone that's on their, that they're paying or blackmailing or whatever how they do it. And then they can cause, again, distress, war, civil war within different other countries, and do the same thing. It's the same system. It's the same playbook. It's the same mirror. And that's what they'll do. So remember, they first send out, again, it's their playbook, it's their mirror. They send out their explorers, but again, you just change the name explorers, their mirror, their playbook, and just substitute explorers with spies. And then once they find out, again, hey, what you guys got over here, then they send in their missionaries, and then they start their infiltration. And then they send in their mercenaries, and they collect intelligence, and they start again to, create, again, upheaval, distress, coups, all sorts of different things within governments and regions, tribes, the whole thing that they do. Again, it's a playbook, it's a mirror. And then finally, when they've cited through, again, their intelligence apparatus that these people can be conquered and their lands can be taken in land grabs, and they can take their natural resources. Then they start to recruit their armies. Again, in these civil wars, these coups, these takeovers, these revolutionaries, and they'll say, oh, it's because of democracy. No, it's because you guys are evil and you're taking the children, you're taking the natural resources, you're doing sacrifice, you're doing all these evil things that I talked about. It's just pure evil. Remember, it is what it is, and it's absolutely evil, and they're responsible for it. But that's what they do. So they corrupt certain individuals. They'll train certain individuals, and then they'll train them. They'll send them to places, they'll train them, and then they'll send them back into the countries they want to create revolutions, coups, overthrows of governments, civil war, and then they'll insert them, and they'll fund their infiltration as they gather more and more forces. And then once they get a foothold, then they start going after the children. That's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. Pretty evil. Like I said, I wanted to talk about this. And when I looked at the numbers, again, remember, the numbers are absolutely staggering. And again, I know what they say in the AI, but again, through other, research and stuff, they have no idea how many people in Ethiopia they've murdered, sacrificed, destroyed. um, you know, all this evil, this child sex trafficking, adrenochrome production, manufacturing from the children, because they have the dark melatonin in their skin. So they, in their belief, again, remember belief, they have it's a negative lower frequency, but in their belief that the darker melatonin children has higher concentration of adrenochrome. They talk about, again, the life force, or again, the pheromone that they extract from the pineal gland or the third eye. And then when you look at the cages Ms. Drag has, that they put these beautiful light being children in, they're so small, and it's easier for them to control the children and extract the adrenochrome and do all these horrific methods to terrorize the child, and use the child every way possible. It's absolutely evil. It's absolutely evil. Like I said, they did this in Ethiopia because they went in. They want to again extract through his research. Remember, that's the cradle of civilization. That's where it started, in Ethiopia, in Africa. They told you Mesopotamia. I don't resonate that's true at all. And through my research, it was in Africa. We're talking about the Ethiopian kingdom of Ethiopian civilization. That, again, was a part of, again, the Atlantean civilization, or but again, they did exactly that playbook, that mirror, and they systematically, again, removed the children. Again, we're talking about a large amount of children through, again, civil war, revolution, government coups, overthrows of governments, tribes, regions. This is what they did. That's just a playbook. And then when they were able to do that, they can get as many children as they want. And then they can, again, mask it with all these different charitable organizations, these corporations. And they can bring also the corporations in to steal their natural resources. As, again, they systematically concentrate these individuals into certain areas, or, again, referred to, again, as these concentrate or concentration camps, and then systematically destroy the children, remove the children, harvest the children. It's the same playbook you're seeing in Palestine. It's the same playbook. Remember, they're concentrating the Palestinians into concentration camps like the Gaza Strip to systematically conduct their sacrifices and do all these horrific things. And, again, abduct the children. And that's why they wanted to build a canal in Palestine. So they have more, like they have their own canal and access, again, to the children. And, again, also the natural gas reserves on the coast. They're absolutely pure evil. We're talking about, again, the state of Israel. So this is what happened. This is exactly what happened. And, remember, Ethiopia was also called, again, Abyssinia. So, again, remember, they use their evil frequency. So think about Abyssinia, right? The abyss, ABYSS, right? The abyss, when it refers someone goes in the abyss, they're never seen again, right? Well, they're talking actually about with the children. They're taking the children are never seen again. Again, they're sacrificing the children. They're murdering the children. They're sacrificing the children. And they're doing all these horrific things. Again, the child sex trafficking, human trafficking, adrenochrome manufacturing, organ harvesting. It's pure sex. Pedophilia, prostitution. Absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. Raping the women, raping the divine feminine energy. Again, these people are psychopaths. Again, we want to expose them every single chance we get. We're not going to stop. And, again, remember, the UN is also responsible for, again, when they talk about, again, the children and armed conflict. So, again, when the UN was down there and all these African, countries and regions, including, of course, Ethiopia. They were responsible for a lot of this evilness that we've been talking about. It's the UN. It's 100% the UN. And when you learn about the amount of people that the UN raped, it's staggering. It's absolutely incredible. Remember, that evil NATO needs to go away, just like that evil State Department of ours needs to go away. Remember, it's going to happen. We're going to manifest it, but they're absolutely evil. They're absolutely evil. And also remember too, it goes back to, again, Ethiopia, even though it's been raped, murdered, all these horrific things happen. Ethiopian managed actually to fight back, during some times, and they managed to actually repulse the Ottoman Empire. So remember, they're just not giving up without a fight. But again, they've had so much stolen from them, so many resources, again, and so many children. It's just, who knows the exact number of how many children are stolen from the lands of Africa. But again, we're talking about Ethiopia right now. Absolutely incredible evil. Like I said, we're going to expose them every single chance we get. And again, we're talking about the beautiful children, the beautiful people, man and woman, again, two genders in Ethiopia, the beautiful divine feminine and divine masculine energy of Ethiopia with their beautiful dark melanin in their skin. Absolutely incredible people. But again, because of what the Babylonian Talmudic religion believes, again, because they have the dark melanin in their skin and they, stole their identities, they're destroying those people, but they're using the dark melanin with the children as a higher concentration to make adrenochrome. How evil is that? Pure evil. Absolutely evil. Like I said, we need to call these people out every single chance we get. And I'm going to get later into a lot of the corporations that went into Africa, and we're going to expose them by name. All the different, IGOs, international government organizations, all the different corporations, associations, institutions, companies, charity, organizations, charity institutes, charity companies, charity corporations. We're going to expose them. We're going to expose as many as we can, if not all of them. We're just going to just keep exposing them. But when you learn the amount of, again, negative evil frequency that they've emitted on this land called Ethiopia, again, all the blood sacrifice that occurred, we're going to hold these people accountable. Remember, willfully and knowingly. If they willfully and knowingly, to universal laws, cause harm to others or take others' possessions, they now willfully and knowingly, based on their free will, decide to go the path of evil. And they've did this time and time again in the lands of Africa. But, we're talking about, again, the Ethiopian kingdom, Ethiopian civilization, which really, again, was a part of the Atlantean civilization. Again, Strack resonates. Again, the book of Deuteronomy or the book of Numbers is exactly what they're telling you that happened to the Ethiopian kingdom or the Ethiopian civilization, as well as that Atlantean civilization in the African lands. Remember, the African civilization, the African kingdom was a massive. Remember, they said they called it an empire. That's why they fool you, because they want you to think it was like the Roman Empire that were conquering all these different people and doing all this perversion. No, it could be nothing further than the truth. It was different. It wasn't the Ethiopian Empire; it was the Ethiopian kingdom, because the Ethiopian civilization was part of the Atlantean civilization. And remember, they were healing the lands. They had healing modalities, had all these amazing technologies, had all these amazing natural resources, all these beautiful light beings with all this dark melanin in their skin. Remember, they were murdered. Their lands were stolen from them. Their identity was stolen. Their names were stolen. Their story was, again, They were misled again on their story, his story, his story. Remember, it's his story. Again, we're learning our story. When we learn the beautiful our story of the beautiful light beings of the Ethiopians, it was just a systematic destruction of those people based on a lie and deception because another people wanted to claim their identities. And they wanted to claim their children. They wanted to use their children for exactly. They wanted to use them for sacrifices. They wanted to use them for food, and they wanted to use them for their sexual pleasure or their sexual exploits. Absolutely evil. Because remember, the first time they touched a little boy or a little girl, the first time they touched a little girl or a little boy, they severed their ability, their God consciousness, their God spark, their Christ consciousness, and then they use fear and programming to get us to manifest what they want, and that's what they did in the destruction of the land. Because remember, Ethiopia and the Atlantean civilization in the African lands used to be again beautiful vegetation, fertile land. But remember, they actually used again these super weapons, again more like nuclear weapons, because you can go places in Egypt, which again was part of the Ethiopian civilization, or you can go to places in Africa or in Ethiopia, and you dig in the sand, and you can bring up shards of glass. So we're talking about a major, an absolutely massive energy release that could turn again sand to glass. So again, we're talking about nuclear weapons. We're talking about again something happening to the land and the destruction of the people, which we are going to figure out, because we're going to resonate only the truth. And once we find the truth out, we're going to point exactly, and we're going to find out exactly what happened, especially when again our God consciousness, our God spark, our Christ consciousness, again, watch the water, taps into the water, and the water has a consciousness, and the water contains, again, memory, data, and knowledge. And then instantaneously, we're going to know everything. And we're going to know exactly what happened to the beautiful people of Ethiopia. Absolutely incredible, incredible civilization, incredible kingdom, incredible, beautiful people with dark, beautiful melanin in their skin. And they were butchered because of a chosen people that stole their identity and wanted to systematically destroy them because they wanted to hide their lie and their crimes. That's exactly what happened. All right. Always, always, always stay safe. Take care of your families. We're with y'all till the end. Like I said, what an amazing time we're in. We're learning more and more every single day. We're again exposing these evil Cabal minions, and again, Shrek Ward, the Rise of the Cabal series. And again, we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure we expose all of them. Okay. Now remember, every little act of kindness you do, again, helps raise the human resonance. It doesn't matter how small it is, how little it is, how tiny it is. Just do it. A simple, again, hug, of a baby. I watch a baby smile, giggle, coo, incredible. Again, hug the elderly, hug your grandparents, tell them how much you appreciate their wisdom, their knowledge, and their experience. And then also hug a veteran, tell them how much you appreciate their service. Again, their selfless service. And then go, again, give a hug to the homeless and just give them words of encouragement. Let them hear your words, and just by your words alone, because your words are so powerful. Once, especially, you remember who you are. And who you are is absolutely amazing. You're absolutely incredible. And again, once they hear those words of encouragement, the more they hear those words of encouragement, you're going to have a dramatic effect. And you're going to be absolutely the person that you know you are. And you are, because you are amazing, you're incredible. And you're going to have so much of a positive effect on the homeless. Again, and again, we are rediscovering our imagination, learning to be creative once again, just like we were creative when we were children. And then again, we're going toward, again, learning how to manifest. And we're manifesting love and light and the truth, love and light and the truth from within, and finding God from within. And then we're on our way to ascension after we surrender all the negative frequencies. And then from that point on, it's nothing but positive frequencies. And will never be another negative frequency that exists. There'll only be positive frequencies. 700 plus, the plus is infinite. Like I said, once you understand that, and you're going toward ascension, you're going toward, again, enlightenment and bliss. And what an incredible time. Like I said, it's absolute pleasure to, again, be with you. Thanks again for liking, following, and sharing this information. And again, we're going to do this together, and we're going to do exactly what we need to do to expose this evil and eradicate this evil off the face of the realm. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. And like I said, take care and always stay safe.